to what extent are you briefed on or involved in the stadium discussion at all?
Yeah, I'm looped in where I need to be looped in, but overall, I'm staying in my lane, getting our team ready to win, and obviously preparing for the draft with Brandon alongside of me, and really that's where it's at.
Do you have ideas in terms of specifics, whether it be game day locker room or other nuances that you'd like to see implemented as a thing?
Yeah, I mean, as we get closer, we'll be looped in on those things, and asked about some specifics potentially there. But overall, again, I know there's a lot of work that is going on a daily basis, and I know there's a lot of hard work at that. So I really appreciate that.
Sean, I know we talked to you recently about Von Miller and what he'll bring to the team, but since then, what have you gotten to know about him as a person? What have those conversations been like of just getting to know him better?
Yeah, all positive. Really appreciate him coming to Buffalo, and I think all that means for our team, for our city, and I'm looking forward to getting him back, and like everyone else for the off-season program, and just very thankful for the addition, and anxious to see how he's going to fit into our team.
Also, since we talked to you last, the quarterback additions, especially Case, how have you had an eye on him? What do you know about him and those additions?
Yeah, two high-quality individuals in Case and Matt. Great to be able to add two young men of that level of character. Never worked with Case, obviously I've worked with Matt. Both Case in this case for sure, because I've never worked with Case. Everyone I've spoken with, everyone we've spoken with, can't say enough about him as a person. We've had our eye on him for a few years as well, so yeah, it's just been the beginning part of it has been great so far, and at the end of the day, having that room right, as we've talked about before, and with Josh in there, Joe Brady in there this year, is important to us.
Is having Matt in there someone Josh is already familiar with? Is that part of why it's exciting to have him back? Because you already know how that flow kind of goes.
Exactly, yeah. So Matt is, as I've said before, he's one of a kind in the way he approaches life, how he approaches his job as a professional, and happy to have him and his family back, quite honestly, there too. And so his influence on our team has been very positive over the years, and he has a strong relationship with Josh as well, and so that'll be a kind of pick up where we left off type of deal.
Getting back to Vaughn for 1 second, obviously the numbers and the production that he still brings speak for themselves, but what's your view of what he adds to the team dynamic?
Yeah, I mean, when you bring a player in of that caliber, a player that has had that amount of success, I think that really just automatically comes with a lot of credibility, a lot of presence, if you will, and in the locker room on our team. And I know he's anxious to get back and meet all of his teammates, and I'm sure they're anxious to meet him as well, those that don't already know him, and then to just watch his habits, right? You learn by watching people who have been there and done it at such a high level, on an individual level, but also on a team level too. And he's got 2 Super Bowl championships to his credit, and I think some of that will help us as well.
So specific to the culture you try and build and maintain, he fits that well.
Yeah.
Coach, you coached against Jameson Crowder for 3 straight years. On your team now, what does he bring to your offense?
Yeah, he's another guy we've had our eye on for a few years, going back to his final days at Washington, and then he went to New York, obviously, and I think that's the same year we added Cole. He's worked in the slot quite a bit. He's got some experience outside, but mostly in the slot, and he has ability run after catch, with the rack ability there as well, and he's a guy we've gone up against in the division, so I know how tough that matchup was for us, and he and Taryn had some battles, and Taryn won some, and Jameson won some, so it'll be good to have that in practice.
Hey, Sean, at the Combine, we were talking about the overtime rule, and it seemed like the Bills were going to be a team that would put a proposal in, and yet it didn't happen. Can you walk us back on what the process was and what you might have proposed and didn't propose?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just go to this extent to say, like I said back at the Combine, I'm a proponent for change, and whether we put in a proposal or not really is not important right now. What's important is that we do the right thing, the right next thing to do, and I think that's what the game is calling for, and when the game speaks, I think we need to listen.
Do you have an idea of specifics of what you'd like to see in terms of those changes?
Yeah, just generally speaking, again, I think it's to give both sides a chance to possess the ball. You guys know there's a lot of kind of iterations to that are out there, and different, well, we should do this and we should do that. I just think overall, again, generally speaking, I think a change is should be in the works, and I appreciate it at a minimum that there's been great conversation about it to this point, and we'll just see where it ends up.
Did you feel that way prior to the divisional playoffs this year?
I did. I felt like there was a change needed, in particular in the playoffs. So again, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, Sean, the one proposal that has the 2-point conversion as, perhaps being the final play. You have any sentiments about that being the one?
Yeah,
that
I'm
gets
not going to
over?
really get into, respectfully, I'm not going to get into the details of which one I agree with, which one I don't. So again, I just think generally speaking, I'd like to see a change.
We've seen some passion from Brandon Beane at times, but he was noticeably angry recently when we talked to him about what happened with J.D. McKissic. Obviously, you both have relationships with folks in Washington. From your perspective, how did you feel that whole situation played out with J.D.?
Yeah, I just think I wish it would have unfolded differently. And obviously, every player is entitled to making their own decision. There's just the process that led to that decision amongst the two clubs. I think I would have liked to have seen gone differently.
Did the way that it did it impact your relationship with anybody over there?
We're professionals. That's why we do what we do, and we're going to continue to do business. I believe in a certain way in Buffalo, the way we believe is the right way, and at the end of the day, we can't control the way other people do business. So that's the only thing we can control at this point, and so we always try and put our best foot forward. So.
Sean, what did you tell Gabriel Davis to work on this offseason so he can take a step forward?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a guy that he doesn't need much motivation. I think the day he got drafted, he was out running routes, working on his craft, and I know just being in touch with him, checking in on him in the off season, he's done more of that. And most every player leaves with a pretty good feel for what they need to work on, 2 or 3 things, and I know Gabe is well aware of some of those areas. So.
Sean, if I could go back to the stadium quick, is the way it's lingering and unresolved to date, is that a distraction at all for you or anyone else in the organization?
No. I mean, we're focused, like I said before, on getting our team ready to win. That's our number one goal, and that's where our time has been and should be.
Is it exciting as a head coach to be part of that? Just bring a new stadium, walk into a new stadium as part of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's energy, I think, that comes from it. There's excitement around the city based on what the team's done, and also, a potential of a new stadium like that. So, but it takes a lot, right? I mean, there's a lot of man hours that I know behind the scenes that are being put in, and so I respect that process and trust the people involved.
At this point, we pretty much have an idea of what it's going to be, and obviously where, but I don't think I've asked you this. Do you have it's kind of a hot button, but do you have a preference, outdoor, dome,
Loud.
Coach, the one position.
That's my preference.
Sorry, the one position that you've lost but haven't really added to yet is corner. Obviously, with the loss of Levi, can you just kind of walk us through what you feel about the young guys, especially there? It's Elijah, the guys that are on the practice squad, and Dane, and maybe the ability to step up.
Yeah, well, Trey is doing well. He's working hard in the building, so we'll start there. I don't want to forget about Trey, and then Dane. We have a lot of confidence in Dane as well, and the work that he's put in and shown, in the results on the field to this point, albeit a smaller sample than Trey. And then we've got the young guys behind him, obviously, who are working hard and kind of just got through their first year. And then, still have Cam, Lewis, who we have a lot of confidence in as well. And when you're looking more at that nickel spot with Taryn and whatnot. So without getting into everyone, we've got a lot of confidence in those guys.
How important was it to maintain Saran and Taiwan both on your special teams, your 2 gunners, basically?
Yeah, that's huge for us, the impact special teams, and those guys in particular have with our special teams units and their leadership. And, Taiwan's been a big leader for us, and to get a veteran player like that that's been in a lot of different cultures to come back again with us. I think, again, it speaks volumes about him and us and how we're doing things. And then Saran, looking for him to take another step now as a leader on that unit and influence in the way he needs to influence and at the level he plays at.
Ken, I think you referenced this more specific to Vaughn and when we talked to you after that signing, but just in general, you look at the landscape of the quarterbacks and the changes in the AFC. It's incredible. I guess, does it speak to the work that you and Brandon have done in terms of fortifying your pass rush and the importance of that aspect? It's always important, but you look at who you have under center in the conference.
Yeah, I mean, you've got, I don't know, 7 or 8 now elite quarterbacks in the AFC, and usually you have 3 or 4 on one side, 2 or 3 or 4 on the other side, and so it's like, hey, what's the next step? Where's the next competitive advantage? And that's what you're racking your brain over to saying, hey, is it personnel? Is it strategic? Is it schematics? What is it? And I think that's the kind of fun part or the challenging part of the chess match.
Sean, I know you've spoken on it in the past, but it's 2 years in. What has Stefan Diggs meant to your organization, and how has he changed the culture?
Yeah, Steph has done a phenomenal job of changing our culture, or helping change the culture. I mean, his competitive nature, his ability to put the team first at a position that is not always known for that, I think it goes a long way in our locker room and us in terms of the team that we've become. I think he's got a great dynamic with Josh on and off the field, and a lot of the other players in our locker room as well. So he works extremely hard at it, and the results are out there.
Going back to JD for a minute, yeah, I know you and Ron had a chance about joint practices, working there, things like that. Are those impacted when something like that happens?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into that. Again, that's that was an isolated incident, and we'll just leave it there.
Sean, what do you make of the way this offseason has begun for so many teams? You touched on the competitive aspect before with adding all the quarterbacks, but just it seems like there's more of an urgency for, particularly in the AFC, for teams to try to sort of stock up. Do you get that sense as well?
Yeah, someone's used the term arms race. Is there an arms race in the AFC? I can't disagree, I guess, at this point, right? By the moves that have been made. But again, just like anything else, and I'll speak to our team. There's no such thing as paper teams. Like you got to come together. You got to put the work in. You got to be able to set things aside, and have your focus where it needs to be. And that's what we're focused on right now, and getting ourselves ready to go.
Sean, I know this is a joint effort with both you and Brandon, but as we get closer to the draft, is there any one particular thing that you think the team needs to address, or is it just kind of business as usual?
Well, we have needs. So we'll look at all those areas as we get closer to the draft here, and do our due diligence on the players. I know our coaches have been out on the road working alongside of our scouting department. So I think that's been great to watch, and especially with some of our new coaches learning our scouting department and putting in the time that way to get a good feel for who these players are, not only on the field but also off the field. And so we'll just see where it goes. We're always looking to add good players and good people.
How has the transition with so many new coaches been going? Just getting to know them and weaving them in.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, it's been great. Great energy around the building. They're hardworking people, and it's fun to watch them get to know the building, get to know people around the building, get to know Western New York and Orchard Park and all the surrounding cities of where they pick to live, and so we're just trying to help out as much as we can, but I think we've added some great additions to our staff and our community.
Can you tell a lot about them by where they pick to live?
I'm not going to get into that. You're trying to get me into the North Town, South Town thing. I know enough by now to not to do that. So.
Sean, I want to ask you about Davis Webb. When I gather there was talks of him potentially joining your staff, how unique is that to have a guy who's an active player that you could see sliding right into being a coach?
Yeah, it's very unique, but that's that's how highly I think of Davis, and certainly he has a career on the field that he wants to pursue, but off the field I think he's got a future as a coach someday, and his dad's a coach, and I think he'll be well equipped to move into a role one day when he decides to hang it up.
Like, what role did he play in that quarterback's room? Obviously, kind of being there for Josh.
Yeah, first he and Josh have a great relationship, and so Josh had a tremendous amount of trust in Davis, and some of the things he was sharing, it was another set of eyes for Josh in a similar way that Matt is for Josh, and so that was really fun to watch. And those are that'll go beyond football one day with those two or those three because of the relationships that they've built.
When you get a guy like Von, who's stood up, put his hand down, he's done so much, he's such a great athlete. Take us into the mind of a coach. Do you start calling Leslie and drawing up plays on napkins and things and how you want to scheme and different things you can do?
Yeah, well, I think you put your work in to get a good feel for who he is. Albeit he's not in our building and we have limited contact with him because of the rules. So we do the best we can to do our part. And then those conversations when he gets here in the spring will take place on, hey, how do we feel? How do you feel? And just try and get it exactly right. And from all we've heard about Von, he's a big-time team guy and wants to do it a certain way.
Talked to Brandon about this, Sean, but I didn't get a chance to ask you. He spoke to how Vaughn, his agent, kind of reached out to you guys. And I think to your credit, to Brandon's, the culture you built, the success, it's kind of become a destination for a lot of guys. How was your perception of that, as a leader in that, changed from the time you came here?
Well, I remember, I'll give you a quick story on that. I remember being at the Combine my first season. This is before Brandon was on the scene there in Buffalo with me, and one of the agents said to me, you're going to have to maybe pay a little bit more to get guys to come to Buffalo. And, I didn't say anything. I just shook my head. But inside I was saying, well, you'll see, because if you get it going a certain way at a certain level, it'll be a place people want to come. And I think that's what you're seeing now by the way we've won, by the way we've handled things. Josh Allen and the players that we have in the locker room are the types of people and players that people want to play alongside of and live alongside of.
Sean, I know you were asked about Gabe a couple minutes ago, but is there any one dominant trait that makes him such a special player?
Gabe, yeah. I think you got to start with the heart. The will to be great, the desire to be great. People, talk about that, and it's easy to get up and do it at 10 o'clock mid-morning. But who wants to get up at 5, 6 in the morning and do it on a consistent basis? And Gabe, through 2 years, has shown that he's that type of person. He has that DNA.
Did you identify that in him? Do you remember, in the run-up to the draft? Because you talk about value for a pick, he's at the top of the list.
Yeah, you just, when you're around them, you can get a feel, and we spent some time with them. And I think if I'm accurate with this, that was the year we went from the Combine to COVID. And but I remember, I believe, in the room with Gabe and then watching him on tape, and then then all of a sudden for the draft, I'm at my house for the draft, and Brandon's at his house, and so those are the things you remember, is just his presence, the words he used in the interview, and just how he carried himself, and then obviously the scouting department digs deeper, and it was all positive.
Theme of this offseason.
And the fact that he drove a minivan on campus, I think, I wish he still had it, but I think he traded up. So.
The theme of this offseason a little bit is players returning home. Matt Barkley, Jordan, Shaq. Shaq was really aggressive on social media about his desire to return. What was it like when you got to connect back with him and just?
Well, I could hear him coming down the hall. I couldn't see him, but I could hear him, and I love that. I think again, people that come to Buffalo should be able to be themselves, have that personality, and express it. And I also saw a clip of Settle's press conference when he kind of yelled out, and I think that's great. I really do. I think if it's positive and it brings energy and juice to our building and to our team, we welcome that. And so Shaq's a guy that's done that, and we're just extremely happy to have him back.
Son, I asked this in a forward-thinking way.
Yep.
13 seconds. Is that something you feel you need to address as you move forward, as the off-season begins in any way, shape, or form? Does anything still linger from that, or is it move forward?
No, I think you learn a lot from it, and I think that's the part that I will address as we continue to move forward. Our time right now, and should be and is really on moving forward in our vision for next season and putting this team together and in a professional manner. And so that's really, you learn from a lot of things. And I think that's true in life, and I think it's true in this case. And, that's really where we're at. And those lessons, not just the 13 seconds, but in addition to that, all the lessons we learned last season as a team, not just me, but our players, our coaches, those are things that will help us in the coming season and seasons as we move forward and continue to try and accomplish that ultimate goal.
So I don't know if you have a sense of this yet, but do you feel you still need to address it internally at all?
Well, you do things after what happens after the game. I know listen, people want to know more, and I understand that, right? I'm talking fans want to know more, and my job is to get our team ready to win the next game. And right now, that next game is this coming season. So right now, we just have to be a little bit patient. And I've addressed what I did after the game in the way I did it, which I felt like is in a professional manner, and how I do business in terms of not going into great detail and things like that. And I just think that taking the high road is the right approach, and getting our team ready to win this next game.
Sean, what type of player has Ryan Bates been for you, and what makes this a difficult decision?
Well, all decisions are difficult. And Ryan's a really good player, and he's a really good person. He's meant a lot to our football team. So whether he was in a backup role or in a starting role, so he's been a valuable piece of our team and why we've had the results that we have. So we'll just kind of see where things go.
Why was it important, Coach, for you to go back to St. John Fisher? The team has announced they're going to do that. Why was it important for you as a head coach to do that as well?
Yeah, I just, we like going away. We've stated that openly, and but I would also say that we were able these last 2 years to do it successfully at home. So I think that says a lot about the resources we have at home, but also the way we do things. And in this case, we're prepared to go away and anxious to get up there, and excited to get up there. And it's a spot that we feel like allows us to do some things, to come together as a team, where guys can get away a little bit and kind of get away from the to-do list, if you will, of being at home, and spend some time together as a team and with their new teammates, and build that bond that you want to build, and the chemistry you need to be a good team.
Can you also accomplish that? Through the joint practices? I know there's been a lot of talk about that with the reduction of the preseason, and who knows if they wind up adding another game or whatever, that you get a lot of benefit out of the joint practices, and maybe some of that camaraderie type stuff builds based on that.
Yeah, it does. Not that you have to have joint practices, but there are some benefits potentially that you pick up with joint practices, that being one of them, where you're kind of getting another exposure to an intense environment, and seeing how people handle it, and then kind of more of a us versus them mentality as opposed to us versus us that happens when you're practicing against one another within your own team. So.
Sean, I know it might be early to tell specifics, but with Ken Dorsey, big picture, where do you sense he's trying to balance what's worked for this team and put his own fingerprints on it?
Yeah, I think Ken's off to a really good start. He's shown good leadership amongst the offensive staff, good respect for what's been done and some of the foundation that's been built, but also curious enough to explore other ways to evolve our offense. I love the fact that he's an extremely hard worker, and it's important to him, and I think he's off to a really good start.